If you're a guy over 40, I need you to hear this, because most men have no idea how far off they really are. You think women want something outrageous? Some number you saw in a locker room joke or in a video you definitely shouldn't be comparing yourself to. But the science, the data from actual medical research, it tells a very different story. And honestly, fellas, most of you are stressing over a problem that doesn't even exist. Here's the part that might sting a little. The more you obsess about inches, the more you ignore the things that actually matter for real performance, real satisfaction, and real confidence. And that's where men get blindsided, because the real issue isn't size. It's hormones. It's blood flow. It's stamina. It's the stuff that actually changes with age, and that is what women really notice. So if you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, "Is this enough?" Stay right here. This might be the first time someone tells you the truth backed by science. Not shame, not ego, and definitely not fantasy. I'm Dr. Camilla Hayes with the Diabetes Health Clinic, and I help men over 40 fix the stuff nobody wants to talk about: hormones, energy, confidence, and yes, sexual performance. I've spent years working with guys who feel like something changed after 40 or 45 or 50. And the truth is, it did. But it's not something to be embarrassed about. It's something you can absolutely take control of with the right information. Now listen, I'm not here to judge you or hype up unrealistic expectations. I'm here as a doctor who sat across from thousands of men who felt worried, confused, or even ashamed about their performance. And I've watched those same men completely transform once they understood what was really going on in their bodies and what actually matters to women. Around here, we deal with real science, real solutions, and real results. So if you're ready for straight answers from someone who actually specializes in this, you're in the right place. All right, here's what we're diving into today. And trust me, stick with me to the end because the last point is the one almost every man gets completely wrong. First, I'm going to break down what the research actually says about the size women prefer. Not guesses, not myths, not what your buddy at the gym claims. Actual data. Second, we're going to talk about why men over 40 worry more about size and how aging, hormones, and blood flow play a bigger role in confidence than you think. Third, I'll show you the real factors women consistently rank higher than inches. And fellas, this is where the pressure comes off your shoulders fast. Fourth, we're getting into the biology, what really changes as you get older, what's normal, and what's a warning sign. Then we'll go through the common mistakes men make when they try to fix this issue, and what actually works based on science. And don't miss the end, because I'm going to share one of my most eye-opening patient stories. A guy in his 50s who thought size was his problem, but the real issue was something totally different, and the solution completely changed his performance and his marriage. By the time we're done here, you're going to understand exactly what matters, what doesn't, and what you can do starting today to get your confidence and your performance back. Let's pull back for a second and talk about why this topic even matters. Not just for your ego, but for your health, your hormones, and your long-term performance. Because the truth is, this whole conversation about size isn't really about size. It's about how men interpret aging, confidence, and masculinity. And if you're over 40, you've probably felt at least one of the shifts I'm about to describe. Here's the deal, fellas. Your body after 40 is not the same machine it was at 25. And that's not your fault. It's biology. Testosterone naturally dips about 1% per year, sometimes more depending on stress, sleep, weight, or medical conditions like diabetes. And when testosterone dips, it's not like you wake up one morning and suddenly feel old. No, it sneaks up on you, quietly, gradually. Think of your hormones like the engine oil in a car. When the oil is fresh, everything runs smooth, powerful, effortless. But when it gets old, thick, or low, the car still runs. It just doesn't feel quite right. You hear little noises. You notice sluggish starts. Performance isn't the same. Nothing is technically broken, but it's definitely not optimized. That's exactly what happens as testosterone lowers and blood flow changes. And then add this layer: metabolism slowing down, insulin resistance creeping in, blood sugar fluctuations, belly fat increasing, all of which sabotage testosterone further. Many of the guys I see don't just have slightly low T, they have hormone levels that have been quietly dragging them down for years without them realizing it. But here's where the size conversation gets tied in. A lot of men start noticing physical changes. Maybe they're not as hard as they used to be. Maybe they don't stay firm as long. Maybe erections aren't as spontaneous. Maybe things just look different in the mirror. And instead of recognizing that this is almost always a blood flow and hormone issue, their brain goes straight to, am I shrinking? Is something wrong with me? Is this why my partner seems less interested? And that anxiety spirals fast. Once a man is worried about performance, it affects everything: bedroom confidence, mood, energy, even how he interacts with his partner during the day. The psychological part becomes just as powerful as the biological part. The problem is that men rarely talk about this. You don't go to your buddies and say, "Hey man, is your testosterone tanking too?" Nobody does that. Instead, guys suffer quietly, assume something is wrong with their body, and blame size because it feels like the easiest thing to point to. And meanwhile, women, they're not thinking about inches the way you think they are. They're thinking about confidence, connection, energy, endurance, presence, arousal, and physical responsiveness. Those things are driven by hormones and blood flow, not length. Another big piece of this is that men over 40 often carry silent health issues they don't associate with sexual performance at all. Blood pressure, early diabetes, inflammation, stress hormones, sleep apnea. Every one of those conditions directly impacts circulation to the pelvic region. When blood flow drops even 10 to 20%, erections look and feel different. And to a man, that can feel like a size problem, even when it absolutely isn't. So when guys tell me they're worried about size, I'm listening, but what I'm really hearing is, my confidence changed, my performance changed, my body feels different, and none of that makes you weak, broken, or less masculine. It makes you human. It makes you a man going through normal physiological shifts that can be understood, addressed, and improved. This is why this conversation matters, because if we can peel back the fear, the myths, the shame, and get to the actual biology, men start feeling empowered again. You start realizing that the things worrying you the most are often the easiest things to fix with the right tools. So yes, today we're talking about inches, but really, we're talking about restoring the part of you that makes you feel like you again. Your energy, strength, sexual confidence, and ability to show up powerfully in your relationships. And once you understand the biology behind all this, the pressure you've been carrying, it starts to disappear. And that's why we're having this conversation. First, the big misunderstanding: men think size matters more than it does. Look, fellas, this is the number one issue I see. Men are convinced women care more about inches than anything else. Why? Because that's what Hollywood, locker room talk, and the internet have conditioned you to believe. But the science says something entirely different. Women consistently rank girth, comfort, chemistry, and emotional connection higher than length. The perfect size women report in actual studies is almost always smaller than what men assume. Most guys are walking around thinking they're below average when they're actually completely normal. Inside the body, here's what really matters. The first 2 inches of the vaginal canal contain most of the nerve endings responsible for pleasure. After that, sensitivity actually drops. That means the part you're stressing about is literally the part she feels the least. This is why men over 40 worry more. Aging can slightly reduce firmness or perceived size, and their confidence dips. But they misread that, thinking, "I'm not big enough," when the real issue is blood flow. What to do? Instead of chasing some imaginary ideal, focus on improving circulation, sensitivity, and stamina. Most men think size will fix their performance. The truth? Better blood flow is what actually moves the needle. Second, the blood flow factor. Why things look different at 40 plus. Here's the deal. Once you cross 40, your vascular system doesn't behave the same way. Blood vessels stiffen slightly, nitric oxide production drops. Your body can't push blood to the pelvic region as quickly or as forcefully as it used to. And when erections aren't as full, everything looks smaller. Not because it is smaller, but because you're not filling the tank. This is why men swear they lost an inch. They didn't. They just lost pressure. Think of it like a car tire. A tire with 20 PS. I look smaller than a tire with 35 PSI. Same tire, different firmness. What men usually get wrong is assuming they need pills or gimmicks. But if your blood sugar is high, your blood pressure is elevated, or your stress hormones are spiked, the best pill in the world won't fix the underlying circulation problem. What to do? Improve nitric oxide through sleep, hydration, weight management, and consistent movement. Even walking 20 minutes a day can dramatically change pelvic blood flow over time. Third, testosterone, the quiet saboteur of your confidence. When testosterone goes down, confidence goes with it. And here's the part most guys don't realize. Low T doesn't just affect libido, it physically affects the tissues of the penis. Testosterone supports the smooth muscle inside the erectile chambers. When T is too low, that muscle becomes less responsive, which means erections aren't as firm or as long-lasting. Again, firmness drops, and you think size did too. Men over 40 often miss this because low T doesn't show up suddenly. It's slow. You blame stress, work, age, marriage, everything except hormones. Real example, a guy will say, "I don't feel as big anymore." When we test his hormones, he's not low, he's very low. What most men try, they hit the gym harder, or they try to mentally pump themselves up. But hormonal decline isn't motivational, it's chemical. What works? Get your levels checked. If your T is low, treating it, naturally or medically, often brings fullness, sensitivity, and performance right back. Fourth, women want confidence and responsiveness, not inches. This is where men get blindsided. Every study we have shows that what women value most isn't size, it's communication, confidence, emotional presence, and body awareness. Your partner wants you to be present, engaged, responsive to her cues, confident in your body, able to stay energized and consistent. None of this has anything to do with length. Inside the body, arousal is largely driven by the emotional part of the brain. If she feels connected, safe, and wanted, her pleasure skyrockets, no matter what size you are. Men often think, if I were bigger, she'd enjoy it more. But women think, if he were more confident and attentive, I'd enjoy it more. Women care more about how you use what you have than what you have. What to do? Shift your focus. Instead of worrying about size, work on stamina, communication, and confidence. Those three outperform inches every single time. Fifth, the real performance killer, stress. If there's one enemy of men over 40 that I see constantly, it's stress. Chronic stress destroys erections faster than low testosterone ever could. Why? Because cortisol blocks testosterone's effects, constricts blood vessels, and kills libido. It also makes your brain hypercritical of your body. A stressed man sees himself as smaller, weaker, and less capable, even when none of that is true. Real-life example. A man comes home after a long day of work, mentally exhausted. His body isn't in performance mode, it's in survival mode. No amount of size will fix that. Men think performance issues start in the groin. They start in the mind and hormones. What to do? Build micro habits that lower cortisol. Breathing exercises, light workouts, better sleep hygiene, and reducing alcohol. Most men think stress is mental. It's not. It's hormonal warfare happening inside your body. Sixth, what actually makes you feel bigger, lifestyle and pelvic health. Here's the part that surprises men every time. There are lifestyle changes that genuinely improve appearance, firmness, and confidence far more than any magic device. For example, losing 10 to 15 pounds of belly fat can visually increase how much you see. Excess fat in the lower abdomen pushes tissue outward, making everything appear shorter. Strengthening pelvic floor muscles improves the angle, firmness, and staying power, all of which make you feel bigger and function better. Improving hydration and circulation thickens the tissues slightly because they're getting proper blood volume. What most guys try, gadgets, gimmicks, pumps, pills, stretching devices, and they get frustrated when nothing changes. What actually works? Restoring health from the inside out. Because the penis is a vascular organ, It thrives on circulation, hormones, and muscle tone, not gadgets. End result: when you fix the things that matter, blood flow, hormones, pelvic strength, stress, you feel bigger, you perform better, and your partner enjoys the experience more. And none of that requires an extra inch. Let me tell you about one of my patients. We'll call him Mark. He's 52, married for over 20 years, 2 kids, works long hours in finance. Pretty average guy, nothing unusual on the surface. But when he came into my office, he looked exhausted. He sat down and said, "Doc, I think I'm shrinking. Something's wrong. My wife hasn't said anything, but I can tell." Now I hear this a lot, so I asked him to walk me through what he meant. He said erections didn't look as firm, things didn't hang the same way when he got out of the shower, and sex just felt different. He wasn't performing as well, and he automatically blamed size. He even admitted he'd been Googling some really questionable solutions late at night, hoping there was some secret trick he didn't know about. So we dug deeper. I asked about his lifestyle. Turns out he was skipping breakfast, staying up until midnight, answering emails, drinking 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day, and grabbing takeout between meetings. His stress was through the roof. He had gained 25 pounds around his midsection in the last few years. And on top of that, he said his confidence had tanked. He was so anxious about performance that he avoided intimacy, which only made him feel worse. We ran labs. And sure enough, his testosterone was low, his fasting glucose was high, his triglycerides were climbing, his blood pressure wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either, and his pelvic floor muscles were extremely weak, something he had no idea mattered for erections. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Mark, you're not shrinking. You're struggling with blood flow, hormones, and exhaustion. Your body isn't failing, it's asking for help." So we built a plan, nothing extreme. Small, consistent changes. He started walking every day, even if it was just 15 minutes during his lunch break. He cut back on alcohol during the week. We added a structured sleep schedule. He worked with our nutrition team to stabilize his blood sugar. I gave him pelvic floor exercises to do at home, and we treated his low testosterone in a safe, medically monitored way. About 8 weeks later, he walked back into my office with this huge grin. He said, "Doc, everything works again." His erections were firmer. He felt fuller. His wife actually joked that he seemed bigger, even though nothing physically changed. What changed was circulation, strength, and confidence. He told me, "I thought my wife wanted me to be bigger. Turns out she wanted me to be present, healthy, and energized." That hit him hard, and honestly, it hits most men the same way when they realize it. The lesson here is simple. When men think they have a size problem, what they usually have is a blood flow problem, a hormone problem, or a stress problem. Once we fix that, performance skyrockets, and the fear disappears. Mark didn't gain inches, he gained his life back. And you can too. All right, let's clear up a few huge myths that have been messing with men's confidence for decades. These are the ones your buddies won't tell you, the internet gets completely wrong, and honestly, a lot of doctors don't explain well either. Myth number 1. Women prefer the biggest possible size. This one is everywhere. Movies, jokes, adult content, even casual conversations. But it's flat out wrong. Here's why this myth exists. Men are visual. Men compare. Men bond through teasing and bragging. So naturally, guys assume bigger equals, tougher equals, better equals sex god. But women? They operate on connection, comfort, and arousal, not comparison. Most women actually prefer average because it's comfortable, enjoyable, and easier to work with. Only a tiny percentage say they prefer large, and even then, they usually mean girth, not length. What harms men? They spend so much time worrying about inches that they ignore the real performance drivers: stamina, emotional connection, relaxation, and confidence. The reality: women care far more about what you do, not what you're working with. And an average guy who's confident and attentive outperforms a big guy who's disconnected every day of the week. Myth number 2. If you're older and things look smaller, something's wrong with you. This one destroys men's confidence, and it's completely based on misunderstanding. Why the myth exists. As men age, a few changes happen naturally. Erections are slightly less rigid, blood flow is a bit slower, pelvic muscles weaken, belly fat increases. All of those things can make you look smaller, even when nothing has physically changed. What harms men? They panic. They assume they're shrinking, they feel embarrassed or broken, and they avoid intimacy because they're afraid of disappointing their partner. Here's the truth. In almost every case I see, the size change is really a firmness change, not an actual anatomical change. Once we fix blood flow, strengthen the pelvic floor, and balance hormones, men often say, "Wow, I feel bigger again." Not because they grew, but because they're at full capacity again. Myth number 3. There's nothing you can do about this. It's just aging. This might be the most damaging myth of all. Why it exists. Most men don't talk about sexual health. They don't bring it up to doctors. They don't want to look weak. So they figure, well, I'm getting older. I guess this is just how it is. But that mindset keeps men stuck. How it harms men. They lose hope. They settle for low energy, weak erections, poor sleep, low confidence, even though all of those things are fixable. The truth? Sexual performance is one of the most reversible parts of aging in men. I've seen guys in their 50s, 60s, and even early 70s restore strong erections, better drive, and better stamina once we optimize hormones, blood flow, sleep, and lifestyle. Aging doesn't ruin your performance. Ignoring your health does. If you take anything from this myth-busting segment, let it be this. Most of what you fear is based on false information. What actually matters, your hormones, circulation, stress, and confidence, are things you can improve starting today. You're not stuck. You're not broken. And the science is on your side. All right, let's bring it all together so you can walk away with the big takeaways. Size isn't king. Women care more about confidence, connection, and responsiveness than inches. Blood flow matters more than length. Firmness is what counts, and it's fully fixable with lifestyle, circulation, and pelvic health. Testosterone drives performance. Low T can affect erections, energy, and confidence, not your actual size. Stress is a silent killer. High cortisol can destroy performance faster than age or size ever could. Lifestyle is the real lever. Nutrition, sleep, exercise, and pelvic floor work make you feel bigger, stronger, and more capable. Most myths are just that. Myths, Hollywood, locker rooms, and the internet have it all wrong. The truth is backed by science and your body's biology. Focus on what actually works, and the rest falls into place. Confidence, stamina, and satisfaction improve. And that's what really matters. If you're a guy over 40 and you want to take control of your hormones, boost your energy, and finally feel confident in the bedroom again, I've got something for you. Click the link in the description to grab my free guide on boosting men's health and performance naturally. It's packed with the exact strategies I use with my patients every day. Also, hit that like button if this video opened your eyes and subscribe so you don't miss future videos on men's health, performance, and longevity. And drop a comment below. Tell me, what's your biggest struggle right now? Energy, confidence, or performance? I read every comment and love helping guys like you get answers. Don't wait. Take the first step today, because your best years don't have to be behind you. They can be right now. Remember, you're not alone, and you're definitely not broken. What feels like a problem with size is almost always a problem with blood flow, hormones, or stress, and all of that can be improved. You have the power to restore your confidence, your performance, and your energy. I'm Dr. Camilla Hayes, and I'm here to help you take control of your health and feel like yourself again. Stay strong, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.